he just had a deep care for people and working with people. And I think he liked the idea that as a layman, I would want to work with him in his parish. And we laughed and we chatted. We had a lot of things in common. And I think that's what triggered it all. Yeah. He loved people. He was a people person. And it was more than, frankly, more than a pastoral service that you would expect of a priest. I think he took almost a selfish pleasure in the fact that he loved people, he loved his friends, and he couldn't get more out of life than being with his friends and his people. We went up to St. Albert one time to visit Father Joe Murphy. He was 99 years old and very lucid. He was bedridden. He'd lost one leg, but he was very, you could have a good chat with him. Well, Don and I went to see him. And in the midst of various conversations, Don said to him, "Joe, are you ready to go?" And he meant to die. And Joe looked at the two of us and he said, "You know what, Don?" He said, "Every night when I say my prayers," he said, "I say, Lord, I'd like to stick around for my 100th birthday. But if that isn't in your plan, that's okay with me." And after that, Don said, "Joe, that's me too." And he meant, I love life. I'm sticking around. I know my time is sort of short, but that's exactly how I see it. So that's one thing. I was on my way to the hospital. Don was now, not many days ago, this happened. Yeah. And I'd sent out an email that on behalf of Benny and the family, that Don was going to be going into palliative care, that, he was losing the battle and that we were going to palliative care. So when they got this, it was a Sunday. They were all in Faye's front room, Sister Faye's room. And they phoned me and they said, "Can you get us connected with Father Don? We want to talk to him." So I said, I don't know how we're going to do this. I said, I've got his phone number in the room, but I'm not sure he'll pick it up. And if he does, I'm not sure he'll know who you were. So no, they were insistent. So they said, "Well, go get the nurse to put the phone beside his head. We want to talk to him." So this is Doreen Loreen up in Tuktoyaktuk, a wonderful lady. And so I gave her the phone number of the charge nurse. Well, lo and behold, the nurse took the phone down, laid it beside him. Every one of them spoke to him. Benny told me after, because Benny came down after that, Benny said he really understood that they were talking to him. And they sang the blessing song for him. May the blessing of, they sang that for him. And then he really appreciated that. And then lo and behold, they phoned me then afterwards and they sang the blessing song for me. But the beautiful thing was, Loreen said to him, "Steph, make sure you tell him what he used to tell us when we were struggling. Hang it on the cross," she said. "Tell Don what he told us. Hang it on the cross." Isn't that beautiful?
Father Don was a grandfather and he was a father. And the people just loved him. He mixed, he moved around with the people. He was fun-loving. He loved to celebrate. Anytime that he had a birthday or an anniversary, he would invite people to celebrate with him. And so that was truly, it's just the way that he was with people. He was always their friend. He had friends everywhere. He was in every major city of the Archdiocese of Edmonton. He was in Edmonton and Lloydminster. He was in Red Deer, he was in Millwoods, he was in Sherwood Park. And as a kid, he was with the Franciscan Sisters of the Atonements going to school during the war years. He had friends in Western Australia. There's a priest friend of his there. He, as I said, had friends everywhere. There was his brother, Ben, topped the list, Steph Michniewski, who performed every kind of service for him, driving him to doctor's appointments over the years. And then certainly even in our diocese, besides Tuck, he used to go to, I think it was Fort Smith, and he knew the priest that was there, and he'd be present to help him with pastoral situations or questions that he might have. So I think it was his fatherly, friendly way with everyone. This would be in more recent years when our church was already opened, and still on Good Friday, we would have in the evening the Way of the Cross after having had the afternoon regular liturgical service. And so we would have the Way of the Cross with the altar service going around with the candles and one of the adults with the cross. And after that, there would still be Sacrament of Reconciliation opportunity. And Father would always have a couple of chairs put up behind the altar, and whoever wanted could go up and we would play music, often as is done in many parishes. And I remember at one point, this little child going up, his mom had gone to confession and probably was still there, and he just ran up to be with her. And then at some point he came back, then she came back and he went again. So anyway, they were friendly family moments when Father Don would be present to our people, opening up God's blessings to our church family. I would say the biggest blessing I observed in him when he was here in Tuktoyaktuk is that each person stood before him unique with a personal story, and he had deepest respect as he would listen and be present to each person. And they weren't just a ministry. They weren't just, I'll give you this sacrament or I'll give you that sacrament. They were a human story that was a person loved by the Lord and loved by him, and he listened. And he was present in whatever way. He was the love of God. He wasn't a rule book.
He was special. He was a hell of a brother, I'll tell you. I can't say enough about him. He was very kind, very generous, very people's priest, I'll tell you. And I don't know what to say. He was terrific, a terrific brother, especially in the dirty 30s and during the war when my dad was overseas. We struggled, I'll tell you, and it wasn't funny, but there's a lot of good stories about that. Him and I did a lot together during the war to keep Mom and us guys going, and we did a lot of things like selling apples and fruit and that to the Americans that were in Calder at that time, and we delivered papers and magazines, and we did a lot to survive, and we made it. So I'm very proud of that. We didn't have a father after some time. I won't go into that, but we struggled, the three of us, and what else can I say? We made it, okay? We made it through the tough times, and this is where we are today. And I'm very proud of Don and also my dear mother. I didn't realize how generous he was, and And I just found out more about that from the last 3 weeks. The donations, for an example, donations he used to help institutions that needed money. It's just unbelievable the tax receipts that I have received in his mail in the last 2 to 3 weeks for tax purposes. I said, Don, my God, how do you do it? He's just unbelievable how kind he was and how generous he was and how friendly he was with people. It just breaks my heart to think that he was that kind of person. I didn't realize he was so generous. One time in Calder, there was a fire in a little hut behind the house which we met, and it caught fire one Sunday afternoon. And everybody in Calder blamed Benny. But you know what? It wasn't Benny, it was Don. And he had been smoking in this little hut. Well, that went around. The news got around. So that's one of the little episodes that I remember. Father Don had a couple of titles given to him during his service as a priest. Okay? And one of the titles, you know how a bishop or a doctor or a pharmacist always got DA or AA, what have you? Well, Father always liked to put, after writing, he always used to put Reverend Father Donald Steen, LLBBA. Well, you know, everybody kind of figured, what the heck is that? Well, the reason for that is that Father looks like a bishop, but ain't. And he used to put that down in all his letters. Looks like a bishop, but ain't. And another thing that I'd like to mention, that there's a lot of people know about this saying about Father Don. When one of the parishioners or a friend died, he'd always have in the eulogy, he'd start out saying, this person was born in the year, the month, and the day. And then he'd say, then they died on the year, the month, and the day. But during those 2 dates, there are always a dash. And that dash is what the Lord will look at when that person reaches the gates of heaven. And that's what he'd always say in his eulogies and his speeches, the dash. And that was the most important thing of all. And the people always expected, because every time he'd go and I'd drive him or I'd see him, I'd say, Don, are you going to use your dash again? So that was kind of a saying. Yeah, you know, I was in Red Deer with him one time at a function there in the high school, and I had to speak a few words. And my God, I said to the people at the very end, I love my brother. I love my brother very much. Well, the people were just shocked. I said, well, it's true. I do love him very much. So that's how close we were.